carrying forward the legacy of our founder Acharya. So assuming that, Bangshidhar, were you able to send that document out yet? Okay. You should very soon have received a document, or will receive, or something. It's a conversation in Mayapur, April 1975, where Prabhupada is explaining, maybe you've heard this before, what's the reason behind why in the floor of the India Parliament there was some discussion about the Hare Krishna devotees being agents of the CIA. Have you heard that before? No. I invite you, go to Vedabase.com, enter the word CIA and see how many times it shows up. Lots of times. I forget, I saw it, checked it today. Lots of times, many, many times. Because there was an event during Prabhupada's lifetime where on the floor of the India Parliament there was a topic, are the Hare Krishnas agents of the CIA? Now, Prabhupada mentioned it many times, and it's an historical fact. And what Prabhupada is doing in this little article, it's not an article, it's a transcription of a room conversation in Mayapur. He's explaining why they had that idea. And the reason for bringing it up is not because it's interesting, but that's not why bringing it up. The reason is, I'll say it twice, the reason that Prabhupada gave the solution was two things. Your good behavior, that you're not agents of the CIA, you're actually Hare Krishna devotees with good behavior. And you consistently show that good behavior, it'll take away the CIA stigma. And then the other was, he said, something like propaganda or giving the message consistently, proper knowledge, consistently abiding by the knowledge and giving the knowledge. And you continue to do that and the CIA stigma will be taken away. That's the connection with the morning class. How to further the legacy, just by good behavior. You'll probably find it interesting. You might have to read it 3 or 4 times to pick up on what's going on. Chandrasekhar Maharaj, do you remember once upon a time there was this buzz about the war in Bangladesh? During our era? War in Bangladesh? Not last year, some years ago. It was one of our Sankirtan lines. War in Bangladesh. Everybody knew about it, so we said it because everybody knew about it. I didn't even know what it was. It had everything to do with the United States having the heebie-jeebies about communism spreading into countries that are bordering Russia. It was an anti-communism bhav on the political front. Because Pakistan was on the border and maybe, susceptible to influence by Russia and communism, the United States was an ally of Pakistan for that political reason, the spread of communism reason. And Russia had an interest and a warm relationship with India. So it was India and Pakistan, United States and Russia, or the other way around. Russia and India were buddies, and India and Pakistan were buddies. So there was a war that was purposely created, and then the details are presented. And when Pakistan was invaded, then Pakistan reached out to America, help. And America said, sure, we'll help. And then so there was this look like it was going to become India versus Pakistan became Russia and the United States having another World War III. It was building up like that. And somebody in the White House or the Pentagon or Capitol Hill or something decided that's not a good idea to have World War III, so they backed out. But there was tension between India and the United States because of what was going on in Bangladesh. And India being supported by Russia and Pakistan being, it's just politics. Pakistan being supported by the U.S. to keep communism out of Pakistan. And then Prabhupada explained, it's a short little conversation, but because India had never seen for a long time, many renunciates, sadhus, teachers, etc., had gone from India to America and come back with nothing. And here comes Prabhupada with a whole bunch of Americans. So what's going on? Must be the CIA. Kind of like infiltrate within India and, be, whatever you call it, make a mess with our Indian politics. So they're mistrustful of the American devotees, thinking must be the CIA because where'd they get their money? And the floor of the parliament, it was settled two things. Persons that are well respected, they never heard anything about their involvement with the CIA, and as far as where they get their money, they sell books, which is true. I mean, membership and other things, but it was selling books. Very substantial income for not only ISKCON India, but during those days for all of our centers all over the world. It was book distribution was a big thing. It wasn't just income; it was income, but it was the message of Krishna consciousness through Prabhupada's writings. That was what was inspiring the devotees. Plus, Prabhupada wanted it. And why did Prabhupada wanted it? To further the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as did Bhaktisiddhanta, as did Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and so on, is our line. So Prabhupada was the bearer of our line's activities. So one of the activities, one of the breakout group sessions was about book distribution. The reason I'm bringing it up here at this class is because it connects directly with the morning class. The morning class was building character. And this, you read at the very end of this little document, Prabhupada said that's how to take away the CIA stigma, or the mistrust of the government of India towards the Americans that were practicing Krishna consciousness now in India. For the people in India, it was the white elephants of, they're showing the way. Let's do it because the Americans are doing it. So let's do it because the Americans are doing it. That kind of thing. In that particular period of time, it was important to India to copy the West because the British influence copy the West. So again, the reason we're bringing it up is it was a major reason that Prabhupada said that we, the devotees in the room, were largely non-Indian. They were largely Western, American, European, Australian persons in the room with Prabhupada in Mayapur, 1975, April. The way to take away that distrust of the Indian government towards you all situated in the room and all the devotees, many devotees had come from the West to come to India to serve Prabhupada's mission in India. Now it's the other way around. We import pujaris from this place, that place in India because we don't have sufficient pujaris in many cases. Here it's a little different. Lots of householders have second initiation. They assist substantially. There's still core pujaris that are from India. Anyway, it connect with the morning class. That's my reason for sending this out. And before beginning this evening's topic. Beware of the beast named pride. There are two things that, when they're present, they destroy everything. Anything good, when pride comes, pride will destroy it. When envy comes and intensifies, all good qualities are lost. Good people become not good people when those two things. They're particularly insidious. So beware. So if we're going to be beware of something, what is it? What's that something? What are the symptoms of that something? And what to do about it? Why and what to do. So pride, to advance in spiritual life begins, it's in the middle, and it's even more so as one becomes more advanced in spiritual life. Beginning, middle, and end is humility. Some of you are familiar with a book written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur called Madhurya Kadambini. Madhurya Kadambini is a book that explains the 9 stages of bhakti, beginning from faith up to the stage of prema, and everything in between, the other 7 in between. And one of the things that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes is, all of these 9 stages of the maturing of bhakti can be identified in terms of faith. Just different, more and more and more mature stages of faith. Thus a different stage of bhakti. So faith in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end, faith. And for there to be faith, there has to be some humility. Some of you are familiar with Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs, many songs, a whole set of songs describing Sharanagati. What's Sharanagati? For those of you that don't know, Sharanagati is that 6 symptoms of surrender, or limbs or angas of surrender. And Rupa Goswami has a different order. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's order is he starts with humility, or dainya. And from dainya, everything, because to have faith, there's something greater than me. And that's something that greater than me, I have faith that there's something that's greater than me. I've shared this many times. I think it's appropriate to share in this assembly. Some years ago, I was a college kid. I was a high school kid before that, but college kid. And as a college kid, I started a quest of what's reality, what's truth. It's kind of I was idealistic, but my slogan was 3 things. There's a reality beyond this thing. I know that there is. So there is a reality. I know that I don't know, and I want to know. Like Brahma Jigyasa. Break it down into 3 parts. There's a higher reality. I'm certain of it. It isn't just this, the material thing. There's a higher reality. And I know that I don't know what it is, and I want to know what it is. That was the quest. What is it? And then doors started to open where there wasn't even a door before. And then I walked through those doors, and then there was more doors, and it was a very exciting adventure. Had to roll some things out, and so like many of us, we've had our own little story. Faith is where bhakti begins. But to have faith that there's humility, there's I'm small, and there's a reality that's big. They go well. It's describing two different aspects of life, but they're certainly related. And pride is the opposite, or nemesis. Nemesis has a nice dictionary definition. The inescapable agent of someone's downfall. That's a nice dictionary definition, Oxford Dictionary. Inescapable agent of someone's downfall, nemesis. And pride is such a nemesis. And if somebody tries to give a helping hand to someone who's falling because of pride, they don't want to let go because they're proud. We've all had that experience. Maybe from both ends. But for certain, trying to extend a helping hand to somebody that's struggling with pride. That whatever good, I'm going to give some examples. There are many people that are very, from the material point of view, very good, mode of goodness good. But what happens when the mode of goodness good produces its results? One tendency is to try to be the enjoyer of the fruits of that piety. It's one of the problems for demigods. Pious, to go to heaven, what to speak of, become a demigod, and then become enjoyers. It's 1, 2, 3. It's dominoes, 1, 2, 3. Pride, there's two features of material conception: false ego, that's the I, and the mind, aham mama, mameti, aham mameti, thus, mama, aham, I and mine. So it's the material I and mine conception. It's the mind portion. I'm proud of what? Mine. So what's mine? That which comes from me, that's mine. My children, my home, the fruits of my work. And that's mine. I'm entitled. Remember this phrase that I've been speaking about, entitlement. I'm entitled because it's mine. And pride is real easy. It's 1, 2, 3. You don't have to be pious to be proud. But if you're pious, you can be more proud than the one that's not pious. Prabhupada tells a story. I like the story. When he was young, he lived in Calcutta. And his father, Gaur Mohan, he was a Krishna Bhakta. And one of the things they did annually, they would go to Jagannath Rath Yatra. So there's a train that goes directly from Calcutta to Puri. So they would ride the train. Prabhupada described in different places, you not only stop at different stops, but it stops long enough you can get down and walk around on the platform. So he did that. He walked around on the platform and he saw one couple, and what they were doing was they had a burlap bag and some discarded pieces of wood. And they laid out the burlap bag, and they were very carefully placing this piece of broken wood, that piece of driftwood, that piece of discarded wood, one next to another. It's like counting their coins. And Prabhupada said, from this I could understand even a pauper is proud of his penny. I mean, little boy, but he could, understand the essence or principle of something. Even the pauper is proud of his penny. So we can be proud even if we have nothing. What to speak if you have something? What to speak if you have a lot? What to speak if you're a very pious person? You have an extra lot. Real easy to be proud. What are the fruits of piety? Queen Kunti lists them. There's 4 in subdivisions of those 4. Janma, or good birth. Aishvarya, wealth or opulence. Shruta, a good education, and Shri, beauty. Janma Aishwarya Shutra Shri Bir, Adya Manamadak Paman, make people mada, mad, Queen Kunti says. And it's true. For example, the combination of a very learned person and humility is almost non-existent. Because somebody has the capacity for elevated learning and they're not very humble. Now, our acharyas, or teachers by example, that's their achar, shows humility. And it's not cosmetic, it's how they feel about themselves. That's the I. And then when that's taken care of, then the mind is also taken care of. But to find a person who's vastly learned, we're going to touch on some examples of vastly learned or highly pious people that were mega proud of that asset. It was the fruit of piety. The Bible teaches the same thing. Pride goeth before the fall. You probably heard that one before from the Old Testament. And I have often said this thing, here's a graphic. There's fruits of piety. I've never seen a fruit tree that has all those different kinds of fruits in one tree. But there's fruits of piety. And then you add to the fruits of piety a heart that's impure. It's not a completely black heart, but it's impure. And what happens? You get pride. Fruits of piety plus, it's a very simple math equation. Fruits of piety plus a heart that's impure equals pride. And pride can look in a different way. Here's one way pride looks. Here's another way that pride may look. I'm big and you're small, right? And according to Madhurya Kandamani, I make reference to this already. I'm going to make reference another time too. It is describing this fruits of piety as being one of the 5 sources of anarthas, or unwanted things of the heart. Some of you are familiar with that term. Most of you are familiar with that term probably. Anartha. Artha means something wanted, and anartha means something unwanted. So that which is unwanted may be situated in the heart, not out there, but in here. And where does that, one of the sources of anarthas is the fruits of your pious work. It doesn't mean don't be pious. Be pious. Follow proper dharma. Be aware that proper dharma has a fruit. And be aware that there's a tendency to be the enjoyer of the fruits of your pious work or your good work. It's natural tendency, and that results in pride. And that's an unwanted thing. It's something that needs to be overcome by the bhakti process. Then there's another source that's more subtle, a little more difficult to understand. This one is easy to understand, that it's something unwanted in the heart. Pride is unwanted, or wanting to be the enjoyer of the fruits of piety. Here's another one. One may become an elevated Vaishnava. No, you should become an elevated Vaishnava, but what happens when you become an elevated Vaishnava? Labha, puja, pratishtha, profit, adoration, distinction. I mean, this whole Vyasa puja thing. My gosh. It's easy. And according to the Madhurya Kandamani, for a heart that's impure, it's very dangerous. One may want to be the enjoyer of a title, some distinction, some adoration, some profit, something, something, something. Do your devotional service nicely. It may not be this, it may be that, it may be something else. That's the fruit of devotional service nicely performed. Can it happen? Oh, Prabhu, you made such a nice cake. Oh, Nityapriya, with 2 children, you managed to organize this festival. Oh, glories to Nityapriya, Dasi, Ki Jai, which is true. It's not that that shouldn't be done. Now, what do you do when you get some praise or some distinction? Where's Premananda? I want to pick on her for a moment. Is she here? She's not here. She's probably exhausted. Being a temple president, it's a lightning rod for criticism, but it's also, you can get swaggered and, proud of your position. It's easy. 1, 2, 3. Or anything. You said your kirtan was so nice, or so don't say those things because they might get proud. You say those things. You say those things. But now, what do you do when those things come? Profit, adoration, distinction, some recognition. Some people get bent out of shape because they don't get recognized. You can go both. The pendulum can go both ways. So, Shri Radha Shama Sundara Ki Jai. They're back to Madhurya Kandambani. It's not in the list of 9, but in between Adau, the beginning, and then Bhajana Kriya, Adau Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, devotional service begins. That's stage number 2. And then before you get to Nishtha, which is stage number 5, there's in-between stuff, and that's the anartha nivritti stage, and that's the unsteady. The anarthas that within, they block purity. That was our morning topic. They block purity. They obstruct. No, nothing material can obstruct. However, unwanted things can make the light dim, or the pure bhakti not so strong and powerful. Bhakti is strong and powerful. Bhakti is pure and purifying, but it can be dimmed. That's the unsteady. I call it the sine curve. There was several questions like that. When I hear that question, that's the sine curve. It's anishtita bhakti. It's okay. It's one of the stages before you become steady. You don't need to beat yourself up. It's just one of the stages before steady. And with that, before it becomes steady, according to Madhurya Kandambani, there's this phrase, taranga rangani. Rangani means play, and taranga means waves. So one enjoys the waves. Rangani is diminutive. There's ranga and rangani. Small ones, small waves. And enjoying the fruits of piety. I feel good about myself. And I especially feel good when people recognize that I cooked a nice feast or something. And if I don't get recognition, I'm unappreciated. Anyway, the negative emotion thing. So enjoying facilities offered by bhakti, what do you do when people offer you an honor and recognition? Here's one thing not to do. No. It's called impersonalism. So there's other options besides that one. You don't negate the person, or because it's good for them. It's good for me to honor another devotee. So we should honor. Uma did a nice job with the MC. It's okay. She can go like that. But so don't go, no, just, here's some options. What to do. Be transparent. Think about where you were before devotional service. Don't think too much about it. And now here you are in devotional service. And how did that happen? It was just mercy, Prabhu. And and it's true. Don't just say it cosmetically. But it's not me. It's the mercy of the Vaishnavas that somehow I was in a dark place. Prabhupada found me, or his representatives found me in a dark place, and they were very kind. They treated me very kindly. I was listening to a room conversation. Prabhupada was with Yogi Bhajan, who's what's the religion that he's with? He's Sikh community, right? Sikh community. So Yogi Bhajan was in Hawaii, Prabhupada was in Hawaii, so Yogi Bhajan came to Prabhupada's room in Hawaii, ISKCON, and his purpose was to invite him to come to let's get together and love one another and, woo, 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 one of those events. As soon as Prabhupada heard it, Prabhupada interrupted, said, they will never. Yogi Bhajan, was a little taken back. And Prabhupada's point was, they have to accept a center. And if they don't accept a center, then they'll come together and hug one another and nothing will change. There won't be any change unless there is a center. The center is what? What is that center that when you bring people together, they can agree on? And he wouldn't go from that point. And Yogi Bhajan wanted to, say something else. Or, take there can't be any harm. But Prabhupada was saying there won't be any good either. Without belaboring that conversation. Then it shifted. So Prabhupada started asking, where is it? When is it? He was considering going. At least he was indicating he was considering going. Mission accomplished for Yogi Bhajan's visit. Then Prabhupada asked him, where's your headquarters? And he said, a few blocks from your temple. Prabhupada said, Los Angeles. He said, Culver City. A few blocks from the LA temple is the headquarters where Yogi Bhajan had his headquarters. Because at that time, that was Prabhupada's Western world headquarters, Los Angeles, because the BBT was there, etc. Then Yogi Bhajan said, I've gone many times to your temple. And he said, I wanted to see what you've done with the construction because I saw they used nice materials. And then Yogi Bhajan said, but I also noticed they were very wasteful. And Prabhupada said, they're very expert at being very wasteful. Because they have abundance and they're not used to having nothing. One of Prabhupada's habits, I didn't see it, I was told, he saved envelopes, opened them up and used the backside, the inside of the envelope for his writing. He was so frugal. Because there were times when he had nothing and he knew how to live when he had nothing. And be happy. And then when he had abundance, be happy, but still frugal. A little bit like Sudama Brahman, after he went back and there was this big palace, he still slept on the floor and was very happy, living next to nothing. Wasn't enjoying the palace. Anyway, then Yogi Bhajan said, I sometimes go to the gift shop and see what are the things that your devotees know the guests like to buy in the gift shop. And it went conversation a little further, and he said, I spoke with the girl at the gift shop, and she was so sweet. This is character. He was drawn by the character of the devotees. I mean, anyone, if our character is attractive, it attracts. It's just a reflection of the all-attractive, that's all. Not us. It's, awakening of spiritual consciousness. So he asked this young girl, he said she was a teenage girl, American girl. He asked her, how did you become a devotee? And she started to cry. And he said what she said. He said, I was living like a dog. And started to cry. And Prabhupada found me. And he picked me up. And he made me a human being. And I have so much gratitude to him for that kind gift that he gave me. And she went on, like she hit her Prabhupada button and she just glorified Prabhupada with tears in her eyes. Because she felt it genuinely that she had been picked up for this, not being the enjoyer from whatever her lifestyle was before. Now she's in a comfort place, but with humility of who I am, and the person who I'm serving is a great person. I'm very happy being in the service with a great person. So now just going further with this pride, here's two references from Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Lord Krishna is never far away from they who are humble. Many tall mountains stand between Lord Krishna and they who are proud. So both of these paintings are in relation to the rasa dance at Vangshivat. And the Krishna left the rasa dance right in the middle, and the gopis were devastated. Where did he go? Where did he go? And Krishna was hiding to see how they would behave. Did they really love him, etc., etc.? He was enjoying like that. Those who are really humble, Krishna is never far away. Even you don't see him, he's not far away. But then there's mountains between Lord Krishna and they who are proud. They'll never see him. Another, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, the intelligent serve the Lord by remembrance. Those subject to pride do not attain the Lord, even though they may encounter him. Can you think of some examples where a person's encountered Krishna, but they didn't attain him? They didn't have intelligence, they didn't recognize him, they didn't attain him. There's many. There's many. Here's one that I like, and that's the washerman. The washerman story is connected to the washerman in Ramayana. The washerman that criticized Ramchandra, that he was taking Sita back into his company, even she had been in another man's place for some time. And I'm not like Ram. I'm not going to have you spent the night outside the house, so leave here. I'm not like Ram. I'm not a fool like him. Anyway, because of that, not only because of that, but so that washerman, Ram didn't harm him. He could have. He didn't. But it's said that he, in his next life, became the washerman that criticized Ramchandra, criticized Krishna. You know the story. Anyone not know the story? Read Krishna book, you get the story. Krishna was entering Mathura, and the cowherd boys were with them. And he had this idea, we've been living in the village as cowherd boys, but now we're entering the big city, so we should dress appropriately for the big city. So they saw a washerman, and he sent the cowherd boys to the washerman, and with the idea that please give us some of the clothing that you have in that bundle on your head, and so the cowherd boys can be dressed nicely. And the washerman just said something insulting and insulting and insulting, and Krishna took his chin, lifted his chin, and his head fell off. He did judo chop him or something, or at the tips of his fingers, and his head fell off. And then they distributed the clothing. They encountered Krishna, but he didn't attain Krishna, recognize Krishna, because he was offensive to Krishna. There was pride. I'm the washerman of the king, and you want the clothes of the king? Get away before the king finds out and finishes you. And a classic, there's many. One of the many is Indra. The whole of the Leela of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill had a certain element at the very beginning, and that is Krishna recognized the pride that was in the heart of Indra, and Krishna was kind. He wanted to curb the pride of Indra, so he performed a pastime that ended up curbing Indra's pride, and it worked. And many other things were also subsets or parts of that whole Leela. But here's a nice painting, a Pushkar painting, where Indra has come before Krishna to offer his wonderful prayers glorifying Krishna, and Airavata performing Abhishek with celestial Ganges water, and Surabhi waiting for her turn to bathe Krishna with her Surabhi milk. So Indra, fruits of piety plus a heart that's impure. Now Krishna's kind that he helps to correct those that have pride, but it isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's pretty severe. Another nice example, when the boys were hungry, Krishna said to the boys, I'm hungry. Over there's a yajna being performed by the brahmanas. Go ask the brahmanas for something to eat. Krishna's hungry. So the boys went. The little drawing is showing, there's the yajna going on. And when they asked the brahmanas for some items for Krishna, nothing. Of course, they're doing a yajna. One could say, please don't interrupt the yajna, because we're not supposed to interrupt the yajna. But they weren't ready to give. They had abundant articles to be offered. They didn't want to give anything. Now, a commentary says that they weren't Vaishnavas. They're brahmanas that are not Vaishnavas. But when the same boys, Krishna said, go back now to the wives of the brahmanas, immediately, so many things were brought for Krishna because he was hungry. Now Krishna's not hungry, but he wanted to teach a lesson and demonstrate who's really qualified as not having mantras and tantras and yajnas, but devotion. So they're the queens, the wives, because they were living without pride. They were happy to render service, especially to Krishna. Some of you are familiar. I'm just going to go through some more things about pride, because that's our topic. This is a book written by Raghunath Das Goswami. He wasn't known as a celebrated author like Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, or Sanatana Goswami, but what he wrote was really astounding. This is Manashiksha, and in the very first verse of 14 verses, it's a thin book, but he emphasizes the importance of giving up pride. And dum bum even sounds dum bum, pride. Sada dum bum hitva, always give up pride. Hitva. Here's the translation of the first verse. Oh, my uncomprehending inner self, my dear brother mind, I humbly prostrate myself before you, taking hold of your feet, I beseech you, please give up all pride, first instruction to the mind, before any of the other ones, and surrender fully to Sri Guru, to the spiritual abode of Brajadam, to the residents of Braja, to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, to the Sattvika Brahmanas to the holy name of the Supreme Lord, and to the ever-fresh and youthful divine couple, a blossoming beauty, Sri Radha and Krishna, and in this way quickly develop sublime attachment to them. But the preamble is, please give up all pride. So we're now going to go to some other acharyas down the line, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In these Sharanagati songs, this first set of songs, Dainya includes this phrase, I am wrathful, devoted to false pride and arrogance, intoxicated by vanity. Of course, that's not him, but that's the mood of humility. Bhakti Siddhanta, give up pride, the weeds that choke the creeper of devotion. Srila Prabhupada, one who has a simple and grateful heart can easily enter the kingdom of God. I like this one. One who has a simple and grateful heart can easily enter the kingdom of God. Looks like Prabhupada has entered the kingdom of God. Look at that photograph. However, some people can't give up pride. Some examples, scriptural and then more recent historical. Here's Prajapati Daksha cursing Narada Muni. I'm up here and you're down there. So Prajapati Daksha got the name Daksha because, he fulfilled the name Daksha because he was very expert at Vedic sacrifices. Many, so many different varieties of Vedic sacrifices. And, quickly, he had 10,000 sons, then 1,000 sons, and Narada Muni found out they were performing austerities at a certain place, Narayana Saras place, and so he went there and examined them. Are they fit for doing this life of performing sacrifice and getting piety and enjoying the fruits of piety like their father? Or are they capable of detachment? So he gave them a detachment quiz. And they got A's. And so they invited him into his bhakti program in his ashram. And then he went to inform, hey, Daksha, guess what? Your son's just joined my bhakti program. What? Then the next batch of sons, watch out for Narada, but he did it again. And hey, Daksha, guess what? I've got good news for you. Your second batch of sons, they joined my bhakti program. And there he is. You son of a gun. You so-and-so. You've deprived my sons of the means of doing all these yagyas because you've taken them out of the yagya arena into your bhakti program, and now they can't enjoy the fruits of their piety. Shame on you. He cursed Narada. You have to travel all the time. So sannyasis have to travel all the time because it's part of Daksha's curse. We don't have to travel all the time. But it wasn't, one time only he offended Lord Shiva, long story, because of his pride, etc., etc., etc. So Shiva decided, I think the speaking part of his body should be separated from the rest of his body. So he did. He didn't do it. One of his assistants did it. And then there was the appeal, give him a head back. So he gave him a goat's head. Pretty embarrassing. Imagine walking around. He was beautiful. Now he's got a goat's head. That's, 1 out of 4 that got changed over from beauty to goat's head. Or the very elevated Durvasa Muni. He was proud. He had something to be proud of. Not just proud of his penny. He was proud of his power. But because of pride, there was something else in his heart, that's envy, and he couldn't stand it. That I'm a Brahmana with all this austerity and all these powers, and this king, Ambarish, he gets more honor than me. And so circumstance, and he then wanted to kill him because of pride and enviousness, those two. Beware. The fire that you see, he took some hair with the mantra, dashed it to the floor, and created a fiery demon. In the painting that shows, see that man over there? Go get him. Kill him. He wanted to kill Ambarish. For what? He drank water before he drank water on the Dwadasi day. Pretty intense guy. Pride. The Vyasa Muni had to learn a lesson. Or, this is a nice painting, this is Indra on the occasion of Indra Puja. And he was so filled with everyone honoring Indra that when Brihaspati entered, he didn't even acknowledge that he had entered. So Brihaspati knew what that meant. He just quietly walked from the assembly. And Indra had some problems because of having offended Brihaspati due to his pride. Labha Puja Pratishta, remember? Another example, more contemporary, one time, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vallabhacharya, who was very elevated Vaishnava and very learned Vaishnava, somehow he had made the acquaintance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he wanted to demonstrate his skill. So and of course, there's many things that happened, but one of the things that happened was he expressed to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, would you like to hear my commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam? It excels the commentary of Sridhar Swami. Now, a little background, long before both Mahaprabhu and Vallabhacharya, who were contemporaries, there was a Vaishnava from another line who made a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. But his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam was purposefully peppered here and there with messages that impersonalists would appreciate. Not that he was an impersonalist, but it was a strategy to not drive away the impersonalists, but to attract the personalists to Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's here and there's some messages that are not what a Vaishnava would normally write. So some persons take it that it was compromised. It was a strategy. And Jiva Goswami, when he writes about Sridhar Swami, he writes like that. Much of the resource for my writing in the Sandarbhas has come from Sridhar Swami, and I just haven't touched those parts that are the untouchable parts, making a distinction, because it was part of his strategy to do like that. So, many of you know this story, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said to Vallabha, one who does not accept the Swami is no better than a prostitute. The Swami meaning specifically Sridhar Swami, but another meaning of Swami is the husband. A woman that's married and doesn't accept her husband is like a prostitute. And Vallabhacharya was chastened by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's words. There's many, many little exchanges that are mentioned, but it comes from pride. And he had something to be proud of. And when you do some things like this, there's a tendency that doesn't just stop at pride, and it's a one-time deal, and you get reprimanded or corrected. Now everything's nice. Sometimes gets worse. It gets into the position with pride to then look to a superior as not superior and make bad speeches or comments or remarks or things like that. And this was the situation with one of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's godbrothers, Ramchandra Puri. They were both disciples of Ishwara Puri, and Ramchandra Puri made some criticism directly to Ishwara Puri. No, excuse me, Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri. So Ramchandra Puri was the godbrother of his guru. And after that offense to Ishwara Puri, after his offense to Madhavendra Puri, he said to Ramchandra Puri, "Get out of here. I don't want to see your face. If I die seeing your face, I'll surely go to hell. Please don't even come around me." So with that, having made offense, he then became prone to making offense. And here's the scene where he's visiting in Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the godbrother of his guru, so he's offering him all respect. And his business was looking for fault. And once pride is there, all hell breaks loose. Everything good becomes destroyed by pride. And everything bad comes rushing in. Problematic. Beware of pride. A more recent contemporary, not exactly contemporary, but some generations after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was it's a long story. I'm not going to go into the long stories in Bhakti Ratnakar if you're interested. Krishna Priya Thakurani, she was the daughter of a king, and she had kingly beauty or princessly beauty and opulence and etc., and she has no interest in those things. She went to Vrindavan. She wanted to become initiated by an elevated Vaishnav. He said, "No, you can't. You're not fit for living in Vrindavan." And so she gave up all of her opulence and slept, very risky, slept by the side of the river Jamuna, and just became absorbed in Krishna Bhakti. He gave her initiation, and after some period of time of examining her, and sent her to Radhakund, where there was another of his disciples that was chanting constantly. So this disciple that was chanting constantly was also attending some of the discourses by the elevated Vaishnavas there. One of them is Rupa Kaviraj's long story about who he is and how he got qualified. And he was very good at Bhagavatam speaking at Radhakund with, all the sages and Babajis and everybody. And he was a very esteemed orator on Srimad Bhagavatam. But he made the mistake of offending Krishna Priya. And the offense came specifically, he noticed that when he was speaking, she was continuing to chant. So he stopped the class and said, "How can you listen while you're chanting?" And she said, there's more elaborate, but she said, "I can't help it. My tongue just chants. I'm paying full attention to what you're saying, but my tongue can't stop chanting." It wasn't cosmetic, it was just that was her stage of bhakti. So he said something very cruel and harsh to her. And according to the biography of his life, at that point he fell down. And when he fell down from that vilification of an exalted Vaishnavi, it went down and down and down and hit the bottom. He started changing the teachings, offending the teachers, making up different theology, and eventually, according to the records, Janava cast him out. You leave the association of Vaishnavas. Get out of here. Because he had become an offender. Just from that, from the pride. And because of pride, feeling he can say and do whatever he wanted to. Pride is insidious. Beware of the beast named pride. On the other hand, this is from the 11th canto. We're going to speak something from the 11th canto, the same section tomorrow morning. But this is Narada Muni's having a discussion with Krishna's father. And the discussion with Krishna's father, Vasudeva, he makes reference to Kavi, who is one of the Navayogendras. We're going to meet them tomorrow morning. He writes, this is a celebrated verse, often cited verse, to King Nimi, one who accepts this process of devotional service will never be affected by pride. Now, it's certainly that one can, to a degree, accept, but also become proud. Just like Ramchandra Kaviraj or Rupa Kaviraj. But accepting means this genuinely accepting. That's the purity topic from this morning. They'll never be affected by pride. Even while running with eyes closed, he will never trip or fall. I don't advise trying to run with your eyes closed. But that's what the verse says. And in his commentary on this verse, Sridhar Swami writes the following: closing one's eyes, quote, refers to being in ignorance of standard Vedic literatures. As it is said, the Shruti and Smriti scriptures are the two eyes of the Brahmanas. Lacking one of them, a Brahmana is half blind, and deprived of both, he is considered completely blind. So supposing one is not fully conversant in the Shruti and the Smriti, but they're engaged sincerely under the guidance of a qualified spiritual master in the process of devotional service, they can run and not have to worry about falling, and they're never affected by pride. So devotional service, when properly accepted, can protect one from pride. These are examples to help the understanding, my understanding of what the histories or Puranas and Itihasas are doing is just taking teachings and giving historical examples of the teachings so we can understand the teachings better. They're just illustrations of the teachings. So the teachings are the Shrutis and the illustrations are the Smritis. Supposing one doesn't have thorough grasp of both, it's like a blind person or a person who has running with their eyes closed. They don't have to worry about falling if they have genuinely accepted bhakti, because they'll be freed from pride. Nice. One more example, and then we'll go to closing up. Some of you know there's this wonderful example when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was visiting the temple of Sri Ranganath in Ranga Kshetra. There was a literate Brahmana Vaishnava, and he was reading Bhagavad Gita and crying, and the others knew. The other Brahmanas, they knew he was illiterate, but there he was sitting there mumbling and reading as if he was reading Bhagavad Gita. And they would make fun of him because they knew he was illiterate. So Mahaprabhu saw him crying, reading Bhagavad Gita, and asked him, "My dear Brahman, tell me what it is that you're understanding from Bhagavad Gita." Maybe something to this effect. And The Brahmana said, please don't tease me. You appear to be a very elevated Vaishnav, so please don't tease me like this. I'm not teasing, I'm genuinely asking. Why are you crying if you're illiterate? He said, my spiritual master instructed me to read, but I'm illiterate. So what to do? I try to read. Anyway, he was freed from pride. The reason for bringing this up. And because he was free from pride, although like that verse from 11th Canto, Chapter 2, Bhagavatam, he was like a blind person. That is, he didn't have actual knowledge of Shruti and Smriti, but he was a genuine devotee, and so he could see like a blind person or a person with their eyes closed. Not affected by pride. He was very humble and very realized. So just 2 more slides and we're done. This is a verse from Padyavali. Padyavali is a collection of verses by Rupa Goswami. Some are his own, some are other authors, some are other acharyas in our line, some are from other places altogether. And it's just a collection of, you could say, his favorite sayings. Here's one of them. O Lord, no one is more merciful than you, and no one is more pathetic than I. I am very lowly and fallen. O Lord Yadunath, please reflect on my case and do whatever is appropriate. This is the humility that's the opposite of pride. You're not instructing him, please, something. Whatever you feel is appropriate. You're merciful, and I'm the most fallen, most pathetic. Do what you feel is appropriate. It's a very gentle way of asking for mercy. That's the opposite of pride. And final, and the last verse of Shikshastaka. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is inviting Krishna to do with him whatever he likes. Yatata tava vididhata lampito. You can do with me whatever you like, but you are alone the worshipable Lord. This is this purity point again, the singular focus on getting Krishna's mercy, whatever it may look like. That's high, that we're not there. But we should know that's, you get on the bhakti train, that's where the train's going. All aboard. And we're not there yet, but stay on the board, stay on the train and stay with the bhakti process. Be clear where the train is going and prepare yourself for that ultimate destination. Unalloyed devotional service, that purity principle that we spoke about. So I've gone for over an hour, and you've been all very patient. Let's see if there's some discussion. You've been a really good audience with questions. And I see Mukunda's hand up. He's not spoken yet, so let's go to Mukunda. Where's the microphone? You had? Okay. Let's just go ahead.
Thank you, Maharaj. I was just thinking about how some either devotees that have been around for a long time or senior devotees, some that I can think of in my head as I observe at least their practice that I'm able to see, some have, I guess I would describe it as like a tailored sadhana. There's kind of like the status quo sadhana, and then there may be devotees that kind of tailor their sadhana to meet their own taste as they're growing. And when I think about that, part of me thinks that that can be their expression of their natural, their own taste moving in a certain direction. But part of me thinks that it could be, I mean, I'm wondering, my question is, I'm wondering, would it be prideful to be, because could be seen as deviation? Obviously this is lacking details, but I'm wondering if you don't look status quo, can it be seen as prideful, or is it?
Yeah, the response is it can be, doesn't have to be. The consciousness behind is what's the consideration. And it may not be so easy for you or me or most of us to see the consciousness behind. So it's certainly possible, and it's certainly, but it's not necessarily, if something becomes, customized or tailored to suit a person's taste, it can be the plus, or it can be the minus. Then there's two things, at least two things. One is, who's at the center? Whose happiness is at the center? That's not easy to detect, but in course of time, one can detect who is at the center. And then another is that standard instructions are being fulfilled. They're following standard instructions while at the same time tailoring or customizing. So Guru Sadhu Shastra is there while it's at the same time personal. And then it's not a problem. It's not a deviation. It's a personal expression of their devotional practice, their devotional liking. You want to follow up with that?
No, that makes sense. I was just reflecting as you were saying that, because pride seems to be one of those things that you cannot perceivably measure it in someone else based on just externals.
Yeah. Now, there's rules. Let's say strong speech. Bhaktisiddhanta, the Sringa Guru. He was confrontational. Sometimes, not always. But when it was appropriate, he was strong. And if there's deviation, he would speak it. At whatever the risk, because he risked his life. Anyway, but he had his nature. Now your question specifically was about sadhana, though. One spiritual practice, not just your mannerisms. But if pride is specifically to this question of pride, you look at the big picture of that person, their person's life and how they carry themselves, and then it does become a little bit easier to see who's at the center. Anyway, specific to sadhana. Okay, we're going to come back to the front. You're going to take this microphone away. Okay. We now have 3 microphones. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I want to share 2 thoughts. The first is, in the eyes of a prideful person, everyone else is prideful except himself. In terms of the Govardhana Lila, for example, Indra thought that the residents of Vrindavan and Lord Krishna are prideful.
Yes.
And he should be the person to remove the pride in their heart.
That's right. You got his number.
And another thought is regarding the giving up the pride, and bhakti is purifying. I think is if someone really wants to start an effort, and then he will realize that whatever the fruits of piety, such as what you said, the Jamma, Ishvara, Shruta, Shri, those things are useless for him to even get, for example, one visitor to the temple community, or even one sincere follower that could work on Srila Prabhupada's behalf. And he realized he has to humble himself, to respect, to really lower his head in order to start that effort. And I think that's the purifying effect of bhakti and giving up pride.
I want to share one thing in response. In preparing for this this evening's class, I spent some time and I couldn't find. If you know where it is, please let me know. There's another presentation on pride that gives many Chinese proverbs. One who is very elevated bows down. Do you remember seeing that presentation?
Probably using the Gita value presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. By the way, she wrote an article for BTG on Gita values and how it relates to the Chinese culture. Something like that. I didn't ask her. She's a good follower of Prabhupada because that's what Prabhupada wanted us to do. I invite you all, consider writing something for Back to Godhead. You don't have to be like, a luminary, just something that's useful for Back to Godhead readership. Now, the comment I wanted to make was, as this is in Chinese literature, teachings, humility is certainly part of Chinese teachings, but Krishna is not. Somehow, Krishna is not. But there's lots of teachings about elevated holy men, or whatever the right term would be, sadhus, elevated sages that people regard, and they write writings that people want to live by, etc., etc. It's the substance is missing. There's something there. There's something there, and it helps integrate and maintain a tradition within any country, any place, etc. China being one, that it's very strong. I remember that it's probably there, but so many nice sayings all through the ages. A person's that understand humility. But the substance, it's hard to maintain the substance when Krishna isn't there. Or when Krishna is there, then you have substance because there's a spiritual foundation. And just like this idea of purity, the verse that I was using to explain purity was a verse that Prabhupada used to say, speaking of desirelessness, and that's a big thing for Buddhism, is becoming desireless. But there's no foundation to it, because desire is concomitant to the soul. So real desirelessness is Krishna's desire, Krishna's happiness. Then it's substantial. It's in fact eternal. The door of eternality is open. Yeah. You already have one. Okay.
Guru Maharaj, I'm really blown away by what you've been sharing about entitlement mentality, and a lot of thoughts are churning in that regard. One is when Lord Brahma prays Tattenu Kampansu Sumikshmana, and he talks about the rightful claim, that the kingdom of God becomes that devotee's rightful claim. Is it correct to understand that it's not the devotee that is thinking of it as his rightful claim?
Yes.
And in fact, if the devotee does have that kind of an entitlement mentality, it disentitles him
Yes.
to inheriting the kingdom of
That's
God.
right. That's right. It's a little bit, what you're saying is there's a spiritual and there's a material for everything. I was asked a question, is there such a thing as, I forget what the, spiritual arrogance? They said, Lalita. Spiritually arrogant. Get out of here. No, the haughtiness that sometimes in favor of Radha, they would say insulting things to Krishna, in haughty tones, and spiritual arrogance. But it's for the pleasure of Krishna, and the pleasure of Radha, and the pleasure of Radha Krishna. So everything has its spiritual origin, including the entitlement, and then, but the entitlement that I was speaking of is the material one. Or now the rightful claim. It's Krishna's desire. It's not my entitlement.
And also in the Ishopanishad, we read about Krishna has a certain quota for all of us. However, understanding that he has a quota for us, we can either approach it in an entitlement mentality or with gratitude, just, gratitude for just the undeserved.
It's a relationship. All of life, all of bhakti, all of who we are, and how we do things that we do, it's relationship. It just in this sangha, in this room, we have relationships, and outside this room, etc., etc. So behind those relationships, there's Krishna. And Krishna consciousness is to recognize that. It doesn't mean everything becomes a blur or whitewashed, but behind everything is Krishna. Anyway, it's a nice platform. Krishna consciousness is a sublime platform.
And finally, Guru Maharaj, on this entitlement topic, in contemporary, society, youth, entitlement mentality is like an epidemic. Youth feel they're entitled to things and rights. Living in America, and in order to protect our Hare Krishna children from this entitlement mentality that's very prominent in mainstream society, it is our more and more stepping away from recognizing this mentality in ourselves, stepping away, being role models, understanding our good fortune. Is that, how we can protect them, or how?
Bhakti is the protection, because otherwise we're products of the association that's around us. Without giving too many examples.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, as practicing devotees, we try to protect ourselves from pride. The more we hear, we try to protect ourselves. But often I find some, while we try to carefully deal with other devotees and whatnot, some situation arises, some circumstances come in, and then conflict arises. It wasn't pre-planned, or it wasn't meditated upon, and circumstances arise where our pride is hurt or situations arise. Is it orchestration of Krishna to help us recognize that? A simple example is Rupa Kaviraj, the interaction between Rupa Kaviraj and Krishna Priya.
Yeah.
One would see it as etiquette for a gathering where Bhagavatam is being spoken, and then one may perceive that as, it wasn't an etiquette, a formal etiquette. While that's an example, I feel that there are circumstances that come together where things arise and friction arises.
I follow the preamble. What's the question specifically?
The question is, so as a follow-up to that is often what, at least I find myself is, as we grow in tenure in Krishna consciousness, we take up more services.
Yes.
And those services sometimes become, can create more situations like this.
Okay.
So in that situations, often I feel it's easier not to take up those services and be a sadhaka than take up those services and come into circumstances where friction is arising. So, so sometimes the safest route is, okay, I'll do my sadhana, I'll do my things, versus taking up services, but again, confronting these situations.
Okay, that's a choice. So what are you looking for? Validation? Is that a good choice? What is it you're asking?
So my question is, it becomes hard as sadhaka.
Okay, I got the problem. And then you have a choice in front of you. This or that. And now, what's your question?
Is it pride? Like in situations like this, should we see that as, okay, it's my pride that's coming in way of the circumstances,
Well,
or?
You have an opportunity for purification. Service, whether it's in solitude or in abundance of many persons with many opportunities to run into conflicting situations or somewhere in between. Opportunities for purification are abundant. And if you're seeking purification, then you also need to, recognize your capacity. Don't go in over your head, but don't avoid the water. Avoidance of potential conflicting situations is not your question. Is it prideful? I don't know if it's prideful, but it's maybe not prudent. Our business is to become instruments of Krishna's will. And you're in situations that have some more opportunity because there's more interactions and there's more complexity. There's opportunity to run into conflicting situations. Be mindful. Don't load too much but don't avoid because there's potential conflicts. So to make the right choice requires intelligence. What's the road, what's the path to travel that is appropriate, where I'm going to get purification, but it's not going to be overwhelming. But don't be in the aversion. Or the other flip side of pride, yes, 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 and then not cautious or conscientious, probably a better word, conscientious about staying in the right mood. Something else. I see it's 8 o'clock. That means we've gone for an hour and a half. I think it's time to wind down.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My question is regarding the quote, Prabhupada quote, like, one's whose heart is simple and grateful.
You like that one?
Yes, Maharaj, but I have a question about is dwelling in is dwelling in any Krishna conscious topic or related topic like time management or anything, going deeper into it, is it destroying simplicity? Sometimes I feel like
It doesn't necessarily, it depends. It can, but it doesn't have to. You can hone your skills without becoming obsessed by it. Someone else was asking a question. This is somebody in Phoenix was asking this question about learning this skill, that skill, the other skill. No harm. Just don't make that your religion. Krishna Bhakti is your religion. Okay? Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Can I get your attention just for a couple minutes, please? Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Sit down. Stop putting your jackets on. Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We had a very wonderful festival, but it's not over yet. We still have one more day to go, or half a day to go. While I'm sure a lot of devotees have offered Guru Dakshina to Maharaj directly for the Vyasa Puja event itself, some of you may know inflation rate is what, 7%? So the expenses for this year have increased relative to previous years. We have 450 devotees attending, and the expenses are significant, and several thousands of dollars. Many devotees have already offered to cover the expenses, and we're right around 35 to 40% covered. Yay! We still have about 60% left to cover. So we have a shortfall of about $3,500 to $4,000 a shortfall. So if there's anyone in this room feels inspired, we very much would appreciate to receive. The organizing team would like to thank you ahead of time if you'd like to offer the donation. To do that, if you can go downstairs, there's a table set up by Govinda Mohini Mataji where she's providing return gifts from the Vyasa Puja event, one per family. And then she'll also direct you, give you some guidance on how to offer donations, either through Zelle, PayPal, credit cards, jewelry, your children, whatever. One more announcement is Nanda Sutta Prabhu runs this, or is the moderator for the WhatsApp group for Maharaj's WhatsApp group. We have like 400 devotees on there, or 550 devotees on there. If you're not on there but would like to be part of this amazing WhatsApp group, so they have one more WhatsApp group to be part of. You can either talk to me or to Nanda Sutta Prabhu. He's the man. He'll give you the link to join, and you can join the WhatsApp group. Please enjoy your dinner. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 2 a.m.